We continue now, ladies and gentlemen, on the bilateral. Let's see what. Let's talk about the bilateral economic and trade relations here. We will start with a deep dive into the U.S.-Greece economic and trade relation. We are delighted, to have with us Mr. Dionysios Protopapas, who is, of course, head of economic and commercial affairs at the Embassy of Greece in Washington, D.C. Hi, Dionysios. Good to see you. And also,
Elias.
we joined with Katerina Sokou, who leads our Washington, D.C. office of the American-Hellenic Chamber of Commerce in the U.S. Hello, Katerina. So, welcome both. You are, of course, on the other side of the Atlantic at this time, but I think you are the appropriate person to discuss this session on what the U.S.-Greece economic and trade relations are at the moment. So, Dionysios, I know you have a kind of a presentation, okay?
Yes, that's correct. A very brief one, not to take much time. So, let me...
You will share it on the screen, I guess, right?
Yes, yes. Okay, so can you see it? I guess we can.
Something is coming up. Yep, here is.
Okay, so again, I'll try to be brief. Nowadays, the U.S. foreign policy is commercial diplomacy. That's how the U.S. government defines its foreign policy. But by commercial diplomacy, it means probably economic diplomacy. It's a lot more, many more things. Briefly, it has to do with defense, energy, shipping and shipbuilding, supply chains, critical minerals, and technology and artificial intelligence. For a country to be relevant and important to the United States, it has to fit into those priorities. And I think that Greece adapted its foreign policy very fast after the second Trump administration started. I think that we fit in nicely in those sectors, perhaps with the exception of the critical minerals, where we only have copper and gallium and not many of the other things. So you're all familiar with what is happening in Greece right now with data centers, and the US investments is present in a lot of them. I won't talk a lot about this because we'll have the time to talk later. Again, Greek investment in the US is valued at around $2.5 billion. We are present in several fields. A few people know that 27 Greek-owned shipping companies are listed in the US stock exchange. Our main investment here comes from the group of Titan Cement. They operate 3 plants, 3 ports, and many more facilities to support their operations. Hellenic Cables is implementing an investment of $300 in Virginia, which will be ready by next year, and where they will be producing cables, electrical cables, and later on in the future also subsea cables. Other investments involve Sunlight, Faye, as everybody knows, Megas Gyros, and so on. Now, the US investments in Greece are very important. The US is steadily one of the top 3 or top 5 foreign investors. But there one has to remember that the top foreign investors in Greece are, let's say, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, or Cyprus, countries through which usually multinationals channel their investments. So an investment through those countries may be coming in reality from another country. The fact is that in the meetings that we have here in Washington with US companies, we see that all of the companies we meet have invested in Greece, not now, but 10, 20, 30 years ago. And they are, and even though we are trying to see if there are complaints, and if there are things we can change and help them. Almost always, they say that they are happy with their investments and with the activity they have in Greece. And that's a very nice thing to hear. I won't delve into more into investment because I believe we'll talk about it a bit later. Let's talk a bit about the US tariffs, which is in the news for the past year. The situation right now is that EU exports in the US face a 10% tariff plus the MFN rate. Simply put, the MFN rate is the tariff that was in effect before the second Trump administration. So for some products, the import tariff is 10%. For some other products, it may be 10 plus the MFN, which can be, let's say, another 2 or 5 or 10%. This regime will last until the end of July. It expires then, and we have to see what will happen then. A critical issue is that there are 6 plus 2 investigations in progress by the US administration, which are expected to conclude in July or August. And this is an effort by the US administration to replace the existing regime with new tariffs based on a different legal framework. Now, I believe that those investigations will affect EU exports, but not Greek exports too much, because the Greek export mix is different than, let's say, the German export mix or French or the Dutch. So I'm quite confident that after July, Greek exports will mainly be facing the tariffs that were in effect before the Trump administration took over, which is a good thing. Now, there are sectors which face higher tariffs, like steel, aluminum, and copper, where the tariff is 50%, and the derivatives of those products face a 25% tariff. That regime is not expected to change. The strange, let's say, the paradox here is that when those tariffs were imposed, our exports in specifically those sectors, those products, went up significantly. So steel went up. Steel exports from Greece went up by 183%, even though the tariff is 50%. The explanation for that is probably that the demand in the US is much larger than the domestic supply. So the US industries have to continue importing raw materials from abroad. And in order to increase production, they have to increase their imports. That's why we see such a significant increase in those products. On the other hand, our food exports fell a bit, around 5%. And that, of course, is understood because they faced the new tariffs. However, the bilateral trade between Greece and the US it stands at 4.75 billion euros. Greece is recording a slight surplus of around 60 million when we count in fuels and refinery products. But if we take the refinery products out, then our trade surplus goes up to 660 million euros. The US exports, half of them are fuels, and mainly LNG, because as everybody knows, the US has become the largest exporter in the world for LNG. On the other hand, Greece exports to the US jet fuel, which is practically the fuel that the US aircraft get when they reach Greek airports in the 6-7 months of the summer period. This is counted as export. I won't get into details about specific products. Again, the same statement that I made earlier stands, that industrial products have gone up, while the food sector seems to be having a slight decrease. And let's conclude the presentation here to not take too much time.
Thank you, Dionysius. Let's put also Katerina on the screen, if we may, so we can have a conversation, the three of us here. Okay, I will ask you, Dionysius, first of all. Okay, can Greece, well, actually, can Greece become a stronger regional hub for supply chains and connectivity? I mean, what do you see from your contacts, in the US? Is there an interest, for such investment? For example, we're hearing about the CPRs here.
Yes.
So what is your, let's say,
my answer would be definitely yes, and we're already seeing that. Let's not forget that Onyx, the Elefsis shipyard, has been revived also thanks to a loan financing by DFC, the US Development Finance Corporation, of 120 million USD. That was the restart of the Greek shipbuilding industry in Greece. So it is being done with US capital. DFC is also investing in Thriasio, which is it's going to be the major logistics hub Greece has in the near future. So we see a lot of American interest. Another US investment that not many people know that it's US investment. It's the old Ελληνική Χαλιβουργία, the facilities in Elefsina. It's the group HIG, which is developing a new logistics hub that's also been funded with US funds. So there's a very strong interest in energy. Everybody hears those days about the vertical corridor and how US and Greek companies are cooperating in order to develop the corridor. There are very good prospects for SMRs, but not yet in, let's say, after 2-3 years, because the technology is still being developed. We are practically all the technology investments in data centers are being done with US technology. I hope that in a few weeks we'll hear an announcement by the EPPC, which is looking for an American hyperscaler to develop the new data center in Kozani. And to put it into perspective, the initial phase of that data center will have a capacity of 300 megawatts.
Mhm.
The total existing capacity in Greece of data centers is 30 megawatts or 35 megawatts. So there is planning to create a data center 10 times larger than the total installed capacity. And that will be the first phase. So we see the US interest in investments in Greece to be very strong, very active, and I think that it's only going to get more important and larger in the future.
So this is, thank you. And right now I'm moving to Katerina. Katerina, you've been living in the US for more than 8 or 9 years, 10 years maybe.
Well, 13, 14, I'm forgetting.
Right. Because my question has to do, how do American investors currently perceive Greece comparing, with 5 or 10 years ago, when you had a chance, to meet some of them, right?
So let's go 10 years ago. It was fun times. It was actually after the fun times of 2015. It was, so if we go to 2016, when Greece had exited the crisis, the financial and the most acute part of it. I mean, people were still not trusting the sustainability of the Greek debt. The Greek banks were not capitalized, so they couldn't support the economy and the investments. And during the crisis, despite the amazing opportunities that Greece was presenting at the height of the crisis, no one was willing to invest in Greece, other than a couple of very brave and very forward-looking investors from abroad. But so that was the case then. And 10 years on, we are at the point where the overall image of Greece in the US is at the highest point that it has ever been. And this is driven by importantly, not just by the attractiveness of the country as a tourist destination, culture, it's also considered a safe destination, coupled with the wide impression among US investors, and not only that the Greek government is willing to attract and hospitable to foreign investments, and the fact that it has been promoting a program that gives reforms and pro-business reforms to foreign investors and specific incentives, many incentives for them to come to Greece and invest. This has totally changed the game. So right now, Greece is being considered a good investment, a great investment destination. We see at our office here in Washington, D.C., a lot of interest from US investors, including from the diaspora that traditionally were a bit more cautious, given that they have been burned in the past with their investments in Greece. We do see and experience this heightened interest. And the question here is, how do we take advantage of that? And where do we see the prospects and how we build the conditions for this amazing interest to actually materialize?
So let's give me, the pass, for my next question to you. By the way, I see that you're at the office, correct? At our office there in DC, okay?
Yes, sir, yes.
We have a lovely office, by the way, for the audience here, all right? So anyone who goes to DC, he or she can visit, our offices there. But anyway, what sectors currently offer the greatest untapped potential for the U.S.-Greece cooperation? And I mean not only in U.S., but also in Greece and in U.S. as well, right? For Greek companies to move into U.S. or for American companies to move to Greece. So what sectors, Katerina?
Yeah, and to follow up on what Dionysios was saying as well. I mean, your question to him about the theme of our discussion, Greece as a hub for the transatlantic economy, for the regional economy. All investments, be it energy-related, logistics, that tap into the geographic position of Greece and its important role and heightened role in the supply chains of the region, are really high political and business interest at the same time. So we see the DFC investing into that. These are the government-affiliated investment of the US government here. So these are, we see this interest. Now, I call it untapped as well in a way, because the more complicated investments need a lot of regulatory approvals, and it's a process that might take a long time. So a simplification on the part of Greece and the Greek state of the processes and the regulatory requirements and the speed and maybe even the prioritization and a clear indication to the markets, to investors of what are the priority projects will help direct this investment and speed it up and bring it to specific projects that further strengthen, of course, the Greek economy, but also strategic positioning. And in the context of heightened geopolitical risks that we were talking about, you were talking about at your previous panel, this is even more important to focus on this right now.
Mm-hmm. I will come back to another question, but before I want to ask you, both of you, by the way, you mentioned about the structural barriers here. In your discussion, with let's say with American potential, let's say investors, either companies or institutional investors, have you, have you heard for any structural barriers that they have in mind? And can you elaborate on this?
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think that one issue is the size, meaning that Greek companies we have few large companies. Most of our companies are small and medium-sized companies, which means that they fall outside, they don't fall within the radar of foreign investors. They are too small. So that's one problem. I think that the second problem that the institutional investors and large corporations have that in some fields in Greece, the barriers to entry are very high, meaning that unless you find a Greek partner, foreign companies cannot get in the Greek market, even though it's a small market. So in let's say in construction, in energy, it's very difficult for a foreign company to find its way in Greece on its own, unless it partners with a Greek company, and that's often seems to be a problem. If we look on the other side, Greek investments in the US, I think we're going to hear good news in the following months, because I see there is interest from the large Greek companies like Terna, Metlen, which are not currently present in.
Dionysios, sorry, this is a result of the incentives, and also Katerina, you may step in at any time. This is a result of the incentives that the US government is providing, let's say, or the states are providing, to companies to relocate or to open a subsidiary there?
Yes, absolutely, because there are strong incentives in the US, which differ a lot from state to state. And even in sectors that, like renewables, that seem to be an anathema for the US administration, the states pursue their own policies. So as long as a company does not require federal funding, or let's say to be located on federal lands, then the states pursue their own policy, and which one wouldn't think in the beginning when we hear the rhetoric from the federal government. So we definitely see signs that Greek companies will be more active in the US market in the near future.
Thank you. Yes, Katerina, you may, and I want to, continue, but also answer to the question right now. What services our AMSOM's office in the US also offers and contributing, to these bilateral relations, This is in addition to the answer for the...
Because we're serving both US based companies, right, and our members from Greece. So we do have this dual capacity here to, one, promote Greek entrepreneurship and a modern take, a current take on the Greek economy and its potential and its prospects to the US market, to the US stakeholders here, policymakers, opinion makers, US investors, our members here that have joined our membership from the US in order to gain this connection to the Greek economy and to AMSOM Greece and to its wide network of trusted, the who is who, I call it, of the Greek economy is who we represent as members. And of course, the biggest US multinationals that give it an extra stamp of approval that we're doing something right here for US investors. So with our US partners here, we are putting together programs, initiatives, reports, engagements that promote and tailor-made events for our members as well to raise awareness about their work in the States, but also in Greece. And so this is one aspect of our work. The second one, the one that we can offer our Greek members, is to facilitate their entry into the US market through connections, to trusted partners that we have here, to introductions to officials and policymakers and our partners from the US Chamber of Commerce, to the state offices, development offices. This is all something that we can provide, and also facilitate with market entry, depending on what their preferred strategy is, and even develop business plans for them, again, in partnership with our trusted partners in the US. So this is all services that we can provide. At the same time, of course, we have a little bit, we take the pulse of what US investors are interested in and provide feedback to our head office, of course, in Athens, and also to stakeholders at the embassy. I mean, with Dionysios, we work very well together here, and it's a pleasure and actually a fortunate event to have you in Washington at this time. So we are working together to basically communicate in real time almost what the considerations, the priorities, the concerns of our stakeholders and our members here are. Let me, and I would like to just say one more thing on the Greek companies that have a presence in the US, because this is good for them, right? A business decision that makes sense for them, especially at the time of tariffs. This is also something that might help alleviate some of the effects of the high tariffs if you have a production facility, of course, in the US. But at the same time, you take advantage of the vast resources of the US market, which is still the biggest and most dynamic in the world. Politics aside, as Dionysios mentioned earlier, different states have different incentives and different priorities, including green investment and green energy. So this is all up for grabs for Greek companies. And the way I see it, this also feeds back to Greece, especially given our diaspora and the good people-to-people ties and the key sectors where our strategic interests with the US government align, to basically bring back value added to the Greek economy. And this is something that has been happening through these companies that invest here and form partnerships with US partners, but also in technology cooperation, in growing and diversifying, importantly, the Greek economy as well, and making it more extrovert.
Thank you very much, both of you, by the way. I think we are closing this session with a very encouraging message that our bilateral relations, they haven't reached at all, the roof. And we have a quite long road, let's say, still. And this is very optimistic. And I hope, both companies, both the American companies, can take advantage of Greece, the services and the location actually of our country, and that we are part of the single market as well. This is another advantage that we have. And at the same time, of course, Greek companies can really take advantage of the US, let's say, incentives in establishing a presence there. I thank you, both of you. And of course, I ask you to remain, connected in case there will be some questions after, the last session that we're moving right now to. Thank you very much.